Alright, this video is going to be about building a retaining wall as part of my house addition project. So because of the way I decided to build this addition into the side of a hill like this, it makes the basement garage a walkout at basement level. So it kind of forces me to build a retaining wall there, or else the slope of the yard would just be way too steep. This right side's not so bad. It's a little bit different story. I have more room here, so I think I have enough space to grade that yard back and make it mowable. But this side's a lot worse, especially because I'm at a corner here where the old house is, and eventually there's going to be a porch up there. So the plan is to build a wall maybe about 5 foot high across here, 15-20 feet, and then kind of slope it down so I'm able to put all that dirt up higher, and it'll be a lot less steep of a front yard. And if you couldn't already tell, these are the retaining wall blocks that I unloaded, and I'm really happy I was able to get these. These came from a local concrete place that recently went out of business, and they don't make these anymore, so these were kind of left over, and I got a really good deal on them. There's a couple different styles of block here. So I don't know exactly what they cost new, but I do know these main full blocks like this one here cost around $250 new, and I paid about $50 a piece per block, so I'm really happy about that. Otherwise I would be finding another retaining wall system, because if I were to pay new price for this wall would cost me probably $5,000 or $6,000. With that being said, these blocks were all left over, so I didn't really get to pick what I needed to make this wall. So I'm just trying to kind of figure out what I have and what I can make work. But that's fine with me because these blocks were a really good deal. So the first thing I have to do is move some more dirt, because the front of the retaining wall is going to be somewhere around the corner of that addition. So somewhere right here, I got to move all this dirt. This string line is about the back of where I need to move the dirt. So I'm going to start moving a bunch of that, and then I got to get grade and figure out what blocks I can make work. All right, I got some stone down, compacted. It'll be a nice level base to start on. And I got my string line here. This is gonna be the front of the wall. And I squared it right angle off the face of this house. So it should be pretty square coming off the house. And I had to start this wall a little bit higher than I wanted to. So right now I'm at the elevation of the top of my house footing. And I really wanted to start at the bottom of the footing, but I kind of screwed myself because when I did the drainage in this corner, this is the gutter drain, and then there's a foundation drain just next to it, and they're running right alongside the footing. And I wasn't thinking when I did that, this wall, I would have to do a lot of dirt work and re-piping to move those in order to get this retaining wall to start at the bottom of the footing. Or I would have to like really screw around notching my blocks and cutting them and stuff for this corner. So I decided to just go with the top of the footing. Should be all right. It looks a little goofy now because I had to build that up so much. So this is like a ditch, but I still need to fill in a bunch of driveway. So once I fill in the driveway, it won't look so goofy. But I still do need to notch my first block a little bit to stay away from this gutter drain, because I'm going to be a few inches off of this basement wall, but I need to notch out the bottom. It's not pretty, but that should work. A concrete saw would have been the right tool there. All right, we got most of this bottom course set, and we just put in the corrugated drain pipe in the bottom. That is one thing these are designed for. That bottom arch is meant for the drain pipe to sit in the bottom, which is kind of nice. And then I got to backfill all this with wash gravel. And then we did this end block that we set, we did have that top piece where you can see it's kind of haunched and chamfered. That's so the dirt, your grass or rock level can sit flat, and it makes a really nice edge, but I don't have enough of those, so I wanted to save that block for the second or third course. And then this block, I'll just have to like cut these, and I don't know what I'm gonna do there yet, but I'd rather save those nice ones for the higher courses. Keep going. Yeah, kind of, yeah. So we want to leave it like that, kind of pin it up right here. Here's where we're at so far, and it's looking really good. So like I was explaining earlier, these blocks were left over and I didn't really get to pick from anything. Like it's just all that they had left over. So I'm kind of putting blocks where they're not really supposed to go. Like this is supposed to just be an end wall block. So these are the main ones. I wish they had more of these, but they had a bunch of these left over. So this block is just supposed to be the end because it's got two finished faces. This is finished and this is finished. but I don't have any more of these, so I'm stacking these next to each other, which they're not really supposed to be because there's two finished edges here, but I don't think that looks that bad. You'll never really see it unless you're looking for it. So I did 3 in a row when it's supposed to really just be one on the end. Like the bottom course, these are full blocks, and then I just put one on the end with the 2 finished sides. So I'm kind of working with what I have. It's still looking really good. You'll never really notice. I think those would be strong enough too. And I just folded my filter fabric over. I'm backfilling up to the block with dirt from now on. I've wasted way too much gravel back here. That was overkill. I probably didn't need to fill all that in. I'm still going to fill the gravel inside the block so water can find its way down to the drain pipe, but I'm just going to backfill with dirt because I was wasting all kinds of gravel. So we have one more course to go, and I have just enough blocks to get to right here, I think. So there'll be a nice 3 even step. I should have enough to come all the way down to here. And I do have a couple of these top finish blocks. They're the same size as the main lower blocks, but they have this top bevel cut out of them, and that's so you can run your lawn, your grass, or stone, whatever you want to do. I'm going to be doing grass right up to this finish edge so it has a nice clean look. So I have a couple of these. Got a half block. So instead of this, they bevel it down. Otherwise, I would have to chip this off, or, you know, that's not a real finished edge. So I have a couple of them, but in order to make it all the way to the end, I have to modify a few of them. So I borrowed a concrete saw, and I already test cut one. So this is my homemade top block. I had to kind of whittle around the corner and then just chip the blocks off, but that worked better than I thought. So I got to do this to 2 more of them, and then I'll have a nice finished block all the way across the top. That piece, I would be pissed. Yeah, that'd be really bad. Like hit here and it blows your face off. That's a good looking wall. I'm happy with the way that turned out. We did end up having to shuffle a bunch of these around because a lot of these blocks were the same. I think I have like 4 of this style, like that's the same as that. And that one, there's a bunch of the same style, so we had some of them next to each other and too close, and it looked kind of goofy. So we had to switch a bunch of those around, and we ended up, originally we had like this block up here, so it was a pretty steep step. We ended up shuffling some things around and moving an end block down there, so it's a more gradual slope, so it'll be a lot easier to grade the yard with that less steep of a slope. All my custom top block cuts turned out pretty nice. This one wasn't custom, that was actually a factory top block corner that luckily they had. But like this one's custom, that one's factory, the next 2 were custom I think, but it turned out pretty nice. I'll be able to run my topsoil right up to this end joint, and it should be a pretty clean grass line. I don't really know what you're supposed to do with these step downs. I think they make cap blocks. I'm just gonna kind of blend the dirt up in there on the pitch, and hopefully grass will grow. I don't really know how that's gonna work out yet. Now I just have to finish regrading the yard. Elevation's always hard to tell on camera, but I have to cut this front yard, this slope back a lot. I gotta take a bunch off of this front face and then grade it more gradual all the way up and around, and then bring it kind of up more flat up by those new blocks. So I gotta move this grass and then move all the subsoil and then spread out the topsoil back over all this. All right, I got the whole front yard regraded. I got some grass seed down and some straw. And I'm gonna be watering it a little bit at night because it's the middle of August and we're not supposed to get rain for a while. So hopefully that'll give it a head start. But that's it for this video. I'm happy the way the yard graded out, and I'm really happy the way this wall turned out. These are the nicest retaining wall blocks I've ever seen. So I'm super happy I was able to get these, and I think it looks really good. And I do still have a little bit of work to finish running the curtain drain that I put at the bottom of this wall or behind it. I just cut it off right there, that perforated drain pipe. I want to wait. I'm going to run it all the way along here as like a curtain drain, and then it's going to cross the driveway and then out downhill there to catch any water runoff from this hill. But I wanted to wait until I had some lawn established because chances are we'd get some heavy rains and silt and mud and crap will wash in that trench and that pipe, and it could plug it up. So after I get a lawn established, I need to dig a trench and then finish running that pipe out and down there. I'm also not sure what I'm going to do with these two steps here. I just kind of let the dirt fall over top of those, but that's kind of awkward to mow, or I just have to like weed whack it or something. I might end up, after the grass grows, I might end up kind of just shoveling that out square and like maybe filling this in with some big rocks. That way I don't have to worry about cutting the grass that's kind of on that awkward angle. But that's it. Thank you for watching. And the next thing I'm going to do is finish grading this right side. A lot of dirt still needs moved there, and I need to build a little retaining wall by that man door right there. Not as big as this one, but I need something, and I got to finish grading all this out.